So, hi there, YouTube. Um, this is mostly for the PS5 scene, as far as just a small information piece of drop for you guys. If you've been following me in the comment section on various people's videos, then you're already well aware of the fact that I've testified that I sent $800 Xeno pointers way. And if you don't if you need a bit of an overview of all that, like Xeno Pointer is one of the guys that is actually hacking um and doing the work at trying to, pursue the bug bounty program basically, or get bounties for this stuff, and you know, develop an exploit for the PlayStation 5, you know, and get it completely jailbroken so that we can, wink wink with downloaded games. Um, as you well know, the kernel exploit's already been, launched. I have now received word from Xeno Pointer that all the guys that are involved in the projects that we've seen across the board, like they seem to think that it's just a matter of whose GitHub things go to, but there's coordination that's taking place between the developers at this point. you know uh they're all in communication with each other. No, I didn't actually see anything about in his email about like fail overflow and a few of the other guys, but I did get, it on his good word, you know that himself, Chendo Chap, Slayers, Garvey, Spectre, and Big Boss, and then of course someone else that no one knows at all, that's, behind the scenes, are all working together, and that Xeno Pointer himself has moved on, to basically target, from what he testifies at least, the hypervisor itself. So part three, onward it goes. But he says in his testimony that the other guys are basically working on stabilizing the kernel exploit and trying to make it more stable so that it doesn't, continually crash out the way that, the kernel exploit that we know of currently is sort of crash happy. If you've been following Modern Warfare's channel, I I kind of kick back in the wings quite a bit. I don't, tend to stay. Um, maybe with the PlayStation 5 scene, I tend to follow the curve, with it pretty closely. But with a lot of other pieces of news, I have a tendency to kind of stay away from a lot of it. And admittedly, I've gotten to the point where I've had to like apologize to the YouTube community for a lot of the things that I've said, because a lot of the shit that I have said was said um emotional reactions to things that I thought, just because I wasn't fully up to date on, current happenings from channels, and I kind of felt bad because it was like, if I had known whose channel to follow and followed those people, I would not have said a lot of the shit that I did say in the past. It was a product of being too inwardly focused and not focused outwardly enough, and that was the reality of it. I was just being too selfish with my time. I was focused on what I cared about and not what everybody else cared about, and that kind of caused a bit of a gap in that I just didn't know what was happening. When I said the things that I said, um, that's the past. I gave $800 over the Bitcoin network because I had it on hand to Z Pointer. You're probably wondering, like, why was the balance 800 when the PlayStation 5 doesn't cost that much? My calculations were based on what the scalpers on eBay were charging about the time that was sent his way. It was several months ago, so we exchanged emails, and the last email he'd sent me, he said, "I want you to find a way to break the news to them, with tact." And so I kind of got thinking about Square Enix's updates, when it comes to, the updates that we get for Final Fantasy 11 and the things that they say in their videos. And so I wanted to kind of briefly touch on what the weather has been like of late in my neck of the woods. So small chatter, you know. Um, it does seem like we're coming off the summer months into a cooler season. It's been this summer. I mean, it was bad. I mean, I had to go out there and do some things, outside in public, in the summer heat here. So I live in the Pacific Northwest. I live in, not Portland itself, but one of the suburbs of Portland. So it's on the west end of the river, the far west side. I don't want to get really specific with people, about exactly where I live because I don't want to give out personally identifiable information voluntarily. But I live not like way about as far out as you can go and still like technically be in the Portland metro like extended area. So one of the suburbs basically of Portland and on the one of the furthest away suburbs, not the furthest, but close enough. Like maybe one over from it. So I'll give you that much information about exactly where my location is, and that's about it. The weather has been brutal. It's been hot for weeks and weeks and weeks leading into this period, which I do believe we are now in, fall. Um, I've got a little bit of notoriety about my opinion about the seasons and the weather here in Oregon, and that I am one of the denialists of this idea that we have a very identifiable fall season. I mean, you only know it's fall in Oregon by the fact that the leaves change colors and they start to fall on the ground because basically by the third week of October, the temperature decline usually is pretty has set in so heavily that and then it only begins to fall further from there, going all the way, until sometime maybe in like March, like late March, so, and it persists and the cold weather will persist for that like the time and it just it feels like we have an identifiable spring. You don't, that it's happening. You can't really be unaware of it too if you've got sinus problems of any. Then you've got summer, and then it's just winter. And that's how it feels weather-wise. And winter is the longest of working seasons. It feels like it really properly starts in about the third week of October, although they'll tell you that that's fall. So I am relieved though this time because cold is a little bit different than hot in that you can always put on more clothing to deal with it. And by now, as somebody that is a little bit gets cold a little bit easier than most people, I have tons of winter clothes that have accumulated since I started moving back to the north. And while I'm not in them right now, I don't need them right now. It's okay, you know. This summer was so bad though. I was I'm normally silent about the weather, but I'm up there on social media basically saying that I literally think that we've got laws that basically say women can't go topless and, indecency laws preventing public nudity. And I was just like, I think that the heat wave is so bad that we should just temporarily put a suspension on those rules against all that stuff and let people, walk around in their birthday suits for a while because it is brutal, man. I am about over this heat, and I really don't see why I should be able to go topless and women shouldn't be able to and should be punished, just for the way that they were born, and my mentality on that a little bit. I mean, I know that guys love seeing that sort of thing, but to be honest with you, the way that I kind of felt about it, it was like there's so much, stuff available on the internet if you really want to go look at it, and as it is, and you know, the truth is that it's just not worth, going through this brutal, brutal, brutal heat wave just to see some titties. It's just not. It's awful. So, that's how I felt about all of it, and I'm glad it's over. So I know that I know that my video is not entirely intended for children, but yeah, that is as tactful as I can be on it. Have a nice day, the PlayStation 5 scene, and I hope that the hypervisor falls by Christmas, but fingers crossed, believe it when you see it.